On our top story, that breaking news, Rebecca Grossman convicted of second-degree murder and other charges for running down two young boys in Westlake Village.
Fox 11's Susan Hirasuna has been in the court all day and joins us live with the details of this verdict and that dramatic moment when it was read. Susan.
It was remarkable, Alex. I think a lot of people were thinking that the jury was taking its time because with 5 counts against Rebecca Grossman, they were going to have to consider each count very carefully before making their decision, but guilty on all 5 counts. In the moment, as the decision was read, one verdict after the other, you could hear the daughter, Rebecca Grossman's 19-year-old daughter, exclaim, "Oh my God, oh my God," while her son was sitting next to her, shaking and sobbing. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, you recognize that the Iskander family is on the other side of the courtroom, and they are finally getting some closure. In fact, here's a couple of comments from the Iskanders after they came out of the courthouse.
This trial, every day in court here, felt like I'm attending the funeral of the boys again. Day after day. That's how it felt. And seeing the defendant and seeing the defense attorneys, it just was that bad.
We have been waiting for a closure. Honestly, we have been waiting for Mrs. Grossman to apologize, to take responsibility. And she just chose to fight to the end, and it was heartbreaking to see the lawyers' lies and conspiracy theories, and I'm amazed and glad that despite all their tricks, they couldn't trick our system or the jurors.
Well, it wasn't long after the Iskanders made their comments that this tight group of Grossman attorneys and supporters, and in the back, Peter Grossman, arm in arm with his son and with his daughter as they went to their car to drive away. Meantime, Rebecca Grossman was handcuffed in the courtroom. Of course, her attorneys asked that she be allowed to go home, free on bail, but the judge responded this way. He says, look, this has been a 3.5-year process, and she's been out on bail that entire time, and it's now time for justice to be served. Of course, the Grossmans will appeal. Reporting live in Van Nuys, I'm Susan Hirasuna. Back to you.
Susan, okay, so we know that's a 9-man, 3-woman jury. Do you think we're going to hear at all from any of the jurors? Any indication of that?
You know, as is always the case, the judge sort of finishes up and says, your duty is done. Thank you very much for your service. He goes on to kind of give them some warnings on what's allowed. You're free to talk if you would like to talk about the decision-making process. He wasn't going to stop them from doing that. There was a little something about getting payment for their comments, but honestly, there was just so much going on in the courtroom. I don't remember specifically what was happening. It was really remarkable, Christina and Alex, to see that the moment that she was put into handcuffs, that the family jumped up, but there was a room full of bailiffs, of deputies, that kept them apart. She whispered, "I love you." Alexis screamed out, "I love you," and at one point even said, "Why did you do this?" As if the process of convicting her mother was somehow unfair. But as you heard the Iskanders say, the Grossmans had high-powered, expensive attorneys, multiple. They kept changing attorneys, and yet, in the end, all 5 counts guilty. And the sentencing for that will come up later, but the sentencing for that could be as long as 34 years to life.
Susan, there was a moment last night that you told us about of Rebecca Grossman coming up to you, asking you for a business card and then emailing you. And there was a follow-up to that today. What happened?
Well, to be clear, we don't know 100% that it came from her. The timing is just very interesting. You take my card at, say, I don't know what time it was, just after 4, and I get this email at 4:47. In the lunch break, the Deputy DA, Ryan Gould, stood up and said, "Judge, I need to make you aware of this situation that involved a reporter who reported last night that she got this email." That email included 2 video clips that have been placed under protective seal and were not a part of the prosecution. I did have some interaction with that deputy DA, and he wanted her remanded at that moment. But no, the judge decided to let the deliberations go as scheduled.
Interesting.
Susan Hirasuna, Fox 11 News.
All right, Susan, thank you for your reporting. We'll see you with more at 6 o'clock.